Good evening everyone, welcome to BAJIRAO IAS Academy, the Hindu News Analysis. Today is 3rd September 2025 and today we have the Hindu News Analysis and we'll be discussing all important topics from the Hindu newspaper in a very detailed manner, so that this analysis will be helpful for your exams. So the first topic with which we are going to start this discussion is about governor reserving bills, and in fact governor not giving consent to the bills passed by the state legislative assemblies. So let's understand this. So recently the Supreme Court held that governors can't sit over bills endlessly. Now what is this topic? So in fact, whenever any bill that has been passed by the state legislative assembly to become an act, so governor must give his assent to the bills. But in this case, governors are not giving assent to the bills. So if they are not giving assent to the bills, they will not become acts. Now in this case also, the Supreme Court has clearly mentioned that governors can't sit over bills endlessly or for an indefinite period of time. In Tamil Nadu, a state government versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court has even set timelines for the governors and the presidents. So governor must give his assent to 3 months, must give his assent to the bills within 3 months, and the same timeline also applicable for the president as well. So they cannot sit over a bill for an indefinite period of time. Now when the Supreme Court set such a timeline for the governors and the president, so president sought an opinion on this. So president sought an opinion regarding whether judiciary can really dictate terms to the executive, right? So let's understand the context. So the context is that recently the Supreme Court's Constitution Bench. Now what is a Constitution Bench? Any bench which constitutes 5 or more judges. So this is what is called as a Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court. Now this Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court observed that fixing timelines for the president and governor. So as I've already told you that in Tamil Nadu state government versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court set or fixed a timelines for the governor and president to give assent to the bills passed by the state legislative assembly, right? So fixing timelines for the president and governors to act on bills forwarded by the legislature would essentially amend the constitution, since Article 200 and Article 201 do not prescribe such limits, right? So understand that Article 200. So Article 200 talks about when a state legislature pass a bill, then the bill will be sent to the governor for his assent. So Article 200 says that the governor will have the following options: whether the governor can give assent to the bills, withheld his assent to the bills, reserve the bill for the consideration of the president, and send the bill to the consideration of the state legislative assembly for reconsidering the bill. So he may send the bill to reconsider to the state legislative assembly. He may reserve the bill for the consideration of the president, and he may give the consent to the bill, and he may withhold consent to the bill. So these are the options that are given to the governor under Article 200 of the Indian Constitution, right? So therefore the Constitution Bench says that fixing such a timelines amounts to amending Article 200 and Article 201, because these two articles in the Constitution, they nowhere mentioned about the timeline within which the governor must give his assent to the bills passed by the state legislative assemblies. So I hope this part is clear for you. Now, so this debate continues, and in fact it is also viewed as judiciary's interference into the executive domain and legislative domain. So it is also a violation of the separation of powers doctrine. So this debate continues. So therefore, it actually highlighting the need for an integrated education and cultural studies, interpreting the constitutional matters, fostering meaningful learning about the governance through the cross curricular pedagogical approach. Right? So in fact, if we talk about this, what are the major observations of the Supreme Court Constitution bench? Particularly different judges have come up with different opinions on this. Let's understand the opinions. A constitution bench that was constituted, and this constitution bench was headed by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, with other justice B.R. Gawai, Surya Kant, Vikram Nath, and P.S. Narasimha, A.S. Chandukar. So CJI Justice Gawai's view. So his view was, courts may fix timelines, right? So there will be a timeline for the president and the governor to give assent to the bills. So therefore he says that courts may fix the timelines in individual cases under Article 142 of the Constitution. So what does Article 142 of the Indian Constitution says? That it says that the complete justice, the power of the Supreme Court to do complete justice in any case. Complete justice in any case. So therefore CJI's opinion is that the Supreme Court may fix timelines for the governor and the president to give assent to the bills under Article 142 of the Indian Constitution. It talks about the power of Supreme Court to do complete justice, right? So therefore, but a straight jacket formula for the governor, a president, would intrude into the constitutional design. Therefore, it requires an interdisciplinary approach to problem solving and the overall understanding as well. So apart from that, Justice Nath's remark was, so introducing timelines would further require amend the constitution, right? There are two different articles, Article 200 and Article 201. So these are two different articles. So introducing timelines would necessitate the constitutional amendment to these two articles, because the original constitution has not talked about any timelines, right? So apart from that, Justice Narasimha questioned the feasibility, and he also asked what happens if timelines are not followed, right? So even if these timelines are set by the Supreme Court, if these timelines are not followed, what happens? So therefore there is a need for the safeguards to ensure that the governors and the president give their assent to the bills within the specific timeline. And apart from that, if we look into the key concern into it, right? So here what happens is that Article 200 and Article 201 nowhere mentioned about the timelines within which the assent needs to be given for the bills passed by the state legislative assembly. But judiciary set the timelines. So judiciary says that within 3 months the president and the governors must give assent to the bills passed by the state legislative assembly. So this amounts to judicially enforcing timelines, right? So therefore it might curtail the executive discretion, and it may amounts to the interference of the judiciary in the functioning of the executive as well, right? So therefore it potentially affect the principle of separation of powers, which is part of the basic structure doctrine. Now what is the union government's position into it? So if you carefully look at the union government's position, so timelines are judicially imposed. So judiciary has set timelines within which the governor must give his assent to the bills. So however, remedy lies in the constitutional amendment, particularly amending Article 200 and Article 201 of the Indian Constitution, but not judicial directions, right? So therefore it actually reflects the complexity that has involved into it. However, whenever governor delays giving his assent to the bills, that often trigger the political tussle. Now, we have seen this in Tamil Nadu, right? So in Tamil Nadu and even in Kerala, West Bengal, in Telangana, we have seen this. So whenever there is a delay on the part of the governor, that often trigger the political tussle between the center and states. So therefore, it requires, a creative solutions to address this problem. Right? So judicial intervention must balance the federal structure, separation of powers, and the legislative intent as well. Right? So it must respect the separation of powers, which is part of the basic structure doctrine, and it should also balance the federal issues and the legislative intent as well. If in case legislature wanted to amend the constitutional provisions to set a specific timeline, so therefore it requires an interdisciplinary approach to address this problem. Right? So therefore, this overall debate on giving assent to the bills by the governor or delaying giving assent to the bills, setting timelines by the judiciary to the executive to give assent to the bills, so all this debate reflects India's evolving constitutional practice on the center-state relations. Right? So therefore, this needs an amicable solution to address this problem in a comprehensive manner that will be acceptable to every party, center, state, and to some extent judiciary also. So let's understand Article 200 of the Indian Constitution and 201. Now, as I have already told you, that Article 200 of the Indian Constitution, so it deals with what? It deals with the governor powers regarding the state bills. So he may give his assent to the bills, he may withhold his assent to the bill, he may return the bill to reconsideration for the reconsideration of the state legislative assembly, except certain bills, for example money bills. So money bills cannot be returned to the house for the reconsideration because money bills are introduced in the state legislature after the approval of the governor. Right? And apart from that, he may reserve the bill for the president's consideration as well. So these are the options that the governor would have with him under Article 200 of the Indian Constitution. So here the problem is, even if the state legislative assembly passes the bill, so the governor just withholding assent to the bills. So he is not giving assent to the bills, and that is the major problem here. So let's understand Article 201 of the Indian Constitution. So again, it provides president's options, right? So giving assent to the bills, withholding assent to the bills, and returning the bill if it is not a money bill. So these are the options that are with the president and the governor under Article 200 and Article 201. Now what is the problem here? So the problem here is that governors are withholding the assent, president also withholding the assent. They are not giving assent to the bills in a timely manner. So therefore it affects the governance at the level of state government, because ultimately any bill need to become a law. Only then the governance will be carried out in a smoother way. However, the problem here is that Article 200 and Article 201 has not mentioned any specific timeline. There is no specific timeline. There is a constitutional silence. Neither Article 200 and nor Article 201. So they prescribe timeline for action. Right? So within this specific timeline, the governor must give his assent to the bills. Within specific timeline, the president must give his assent to the bills. So there is no specific timeline. Constitution is silent on this. And therefore, this has led to delays and the controversies, as bills remain pending for months and years with the governors and the presidents. So however, the courts under Article 226 and Article 32, so they can intervene in specific cases. So this talks about the judicial review, right? So article 32 is right to constitutional remedies. So it overall talks about the judicial review. So under these two articles, the courts can intervene in specific cases, but imposing the general timeline of giving assent to the bills within 3 months, so it may exceed the judicial authority and it may alter the constitutional framework as well, because it may amounts to amending article 200 and article 201 of the Indian constitution. So here the authority to amend the constitution has been given to the parliament. So only parliament can amend the constitution, right? So judiciary setting timelines may exceed the judicial authority and it may alter the basic constitutional framework as well. So therefore it actually requires a larger debate and addressing this problem through either the constitutional amendment, or there is a need to shape the center state relations in such a manner that the governor may consider giving assent to the bills as early as possible for a cooperative federalism, and that is very, very important here. So let's understand the next important topic is Prime Minister Narendra Modi receives the first made in India Vikram 32-bit chip. So let's understand this. So what exactly is a Vikram 32-bit chip? Now here Prime Minister Narendra Modi received the first made in India Vikram 32-bit microprocessor chip at Semicon India Summit 2025. And in fact, this Vikram 32-bit microprocessor chip that has been developed by Vikram Sarabhai Space Center of ISRO and Semiconductor Limited Chandigarh. So therefore, this developing of Vikram 32-bit microprocessor chip is considered as a major milestone in India's semiconductor and space technology. So of course this is a major milestone in India's semiconductor and space technology. So let's understand about India's indigenous space ship development. So we all knew that Union IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, so he presented this Vikram 32-bit processor chip to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So therefore it symbolizes the progress in creative arts of technology and fostering a joyful learning in the field of space science through art integration. And in fact, as I've already told you, that it has been the Vikram 32-bit microprocessor chip has been jointly developed by ISRO's Vikram Sarabhai Space Center and Semiconductor Laboratory, Chandigarh. So therefore, it actually reflects an interdisciplinary approach to innovation, because they have these two agencies have come together and they have developed the Vikram 32-bit microprocessor chip, right? So in fact, the Vikram 32 microprocessor chip is a refurbished and upgraded successor of the 16-bit Vikram 1601 microprocessor. And in fact, earlier this Vikram 1601 microprocessor was used in ISRO's launch vehicle since 2009. So therefore, it actually showcases continuous improvement through experimental learning. And even, this has been designed for avionic systems in space flights and the launch vehicles, right? So Vikram 1601. So this has been specifically developed for the avionic systems in space flights and the launch vehicles. So therefore, it showcases the importance of such innovative developments and designs for India's semiconductor manufacturing, for the growth and progress of the semiconductor manufacturing in India. So therefore, overall it showcases India's indigenization in cutting-edge space electronics, thereby reflecting country's commitment to preserving and advancing the overall cultural identity in technology domain, right? So let's understand the semiconductor mission and the industry push, right? So India has already launched the semiconductor mission, right? So which is called as Indian Semiconductor Mission, and the government has also allocated a required amount of funding to the semiconductor mission. So the overall objective of launching Indian Semiconductor Mission is to build a strong ecosystem, so that emphasizes on the importance of integrating technological development and fostering creativity, innovation, right? So therefore it has emphasized on making India a manufacturing hub for the semiconductor industry, right? So construction of 5 semiconductor fabrication units is ongoing, and in fact one pilot line is already completed. So therefore it has been reflecting India's strong commitment towards manufacturing semiconductors. And in fact 2 more units are also expected to begin production soon. So therefore overall they will make India a manufacturing hub for the semiconductors, and it also reflects India's strong commitment to emerge as a new player in the semiconductor industry. And IT Minister also emphasized on India's stable policies and comprehensive approach to support the global chip makers. So therefore it also reflects India's strong commitment towards manufacturing the chips. So India projected as a manufacturing hub amid the global uncertainties, leveraging the local art, cultural diversity into the global market, and also promoting the different approaches, right? So if we talk about the Vikram processor and ISRO, so Vikram 1601, so Vikram 1601 is a processor, and it is a first indigenous 16-bit microprocessor that has been developed by ISRO, and it is operational since 2009, and it has been used in the launch vehicle avionics. So if we talk about Vikram 32, so it is a latest 32-bit launch vehicle grade chip. This has been launched for advanced space missions, so thereby showcasing India's overall progress in developing and manufacturing such chips. So there are some institutions which are involved here. So contributions from IIT Jammu, IIT Roorkee, IIT Dhanbad, NIT Durgapur, NIT Calicut, IIT Ropar. So all these higher educational institutions have been involved in prototype designs, demonstrating a collaborative learning innovation across different institutions in India. So if we talk about ISRO's role through the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, ISRO actually leads in India's space electronics self-reliance, right? So therefore it emphasizes on innovation, self-reliance, and achieving the Atmanirbharta. So what is the strategic importance of developing such chips or microprocessors, and how it is going to add India's overall ambitions to become the manufacturing hub of the semiconductors? So it actually reduces our dependence on foreign technology and foreign countries, and it will further strengthen the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat in semiconductors, self-reliance in semiconductors, and it will preserve India's cultural identity in high-tech sectors while fostering the artistic expression, right? So this is the importance of the Vikram processor and ISRO. So the next important topic is COP 30, so the Conference of Parties 30. So let's understand about COP 30, which is going to take place in Brazil, right? So what exactly is a COP 30? Now if I say the Conference of Parties 13, the Conference of Parties is a mechanism under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change that has been started in the year 1992. So United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is a legally binding treaty, legally binding treaty. Now, why this convention? So this convention has been established to achieve the balanced development. Now, what is a balanced development? So balanced development takes into consideration the growth, economic growth plus environmental sustainability. Economic growth plus environmental sustainability, right? So in order to achieve both economic growth and environmental sustainability, particularly reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, because greenhouse gas emissions are responsible for the global warming, and global warming further contributing to the climate change. And now we are feeling the worst effect of the climate change. Now in this context, in this specific context, so few things that we should understand, right? So the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change overall objective is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and also prevent the worst effects of the climate change through mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation plus adaptation. So these are the two essential elements of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So however, within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Conference of Parties as a mechanism has been established. So this Conference of Parties is a mechanism under which all the parties come together. They discuss important matters regarding climate change, global warming, greenhouse gas emissions, sustainable development, technologies, renewable energy, technology transfer, capacity building. So they will discuss all these important elements as part of the Conference of Parties. So right from 1992, so the COP30 would be the latest COP that is going to take place in November in Brazil. Now, if I say more about this United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, it is a parent treaty for two different treaties or agreements. One is the Kyoto Protocol. Now, Kyoto Protocol is specifically aimed at addressing the climate change and greenhouse gases, and Paris Agreement as well. Now, what is the objective of Paris Agreement? So, Paris Agreement aimed at reducing the greenhouse gases or the reducing global warming just below 2 degrees Celsius of pre-industrial levels, right? So if possible to 1.5 degrees Celsius pre-industrial level, so the temperature should not increase more than this levels, and this is the objective of the Paris Agreement. Now, right from the Conference of Parties 21, so this COP 21, where the Paris Agreement has been approved. Paris Agreement was approved in COP 21. So right from the COP 21, countries have been implementing the Paris Agreement of reducing the global temperatures to 2 degrees Celsius pre-industrial levels, or 1.5 degrees Celsius pre-industrial levels if possible. So according to the IPCC estimates, the global temperatures already increased 1.5 degrees Celsius, reached 1.5 degrees Celsius pre-industrial levels. So therefore it is the highest necessity for the countries to act immediately to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So therefore there are certain issues, certain challenges. There is a concept called historic responsibility. Historic responsibility. Because the developed countries are responsible for the present level of greenhouse gas emissions or the climate change rather than the developing countries. So even though India is the third largest emitter of the greenhouse gases, the per capita emissions in India are very low, right? So therefore the historic responsibility hold the developed countries accountable for the present level of the climate change and the global warming. So therefore the developed countries must contribute financial support, and also the technology transfer should be given. Technology transfer should be given to the developing countries and least developed countries, and that is very important. So that is very important here, right? So therefore, on the other hand, the developed countries are reluctant to provide finances to the developing and least developed nations. So their argument is that the developing countries like India and China are also the largest emitters of the greenhouse gases, and you are not holding them accountable. Instead, the developed countries are held accountable for the climate change. So therefore, there is a disagreement about the finance, technology transfer, capacity building from the developed countries to the developing countries. So overall, this has been creating a kind of a disagreement between the developing and the developed countries, and further dividing the world. So therefore, in this COP 30th meeting at United Nations, this is also known as United Nations Climate Summit COP 30 under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So that is going to take place in Brazil, in Belém, November. So COP 29 took place in Baku, Azerbaijan. So in COP 29, Article 6 has been agreed by all countries. So Article 6 talks about the carbon markets, right? So if we talk about the carbon markets, so as I have already discussed about these carbon markets, so carbon markets incentivize the best practices. For example, if there is an industry, so this industry has invested in renewable energy resources, and this industry has invested in energy efficient methods. So these methods and practices of this particular industry are being incentivized by giving a permit called carbon credit, and those carbon credit will be traded in the carbon markets. So therefore, overall, it aims at reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and achieving the targets set under the Paris Agreement of 2015, right? So 29, it took place in Baku, Azerbaijan, and Article 6 has been agreed by all countries, and this Article 6 has already been asked by UPSC in the prelims examination, right? So this COP 30 is going to take place at a place called Belém in Brazil. So president of COP 30, Andrew Correa de Lago, so he emphasized on prioritizing the practical implementation and also the known solutions rather than the lengthy negotiations amid the global uncertainties and the climate challenges. So very simply, COP 30 would highlight the challenges and will also find out a simple solutions to address those challenges rather than adopting lengthy negotiations, because those lengthy negotiations will take us nowhere. So they will not give us sustainable results as well. So therefore, overall, the summit aims at addressing the climate challenge issues or climate challenges, climate change, so all these issues with a simple solutions, right? So that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.